King's Landing. King Joffrey Baratheon is being fitted for new clothes in his chambers in preparation for his upcoming wedding to Margaery Tyrell. His mother Cersei begins to criticize Margaery, saying that she is only charitable to the poor to build up support for herself, and also saying that she thinks she dresses like a harlot. However, Joffrey barely tolerates his mother's chiding and dismissively tells her off. Shae dresses Sansa in her chambers and warns Sansa about Littlefinger. She points out that Baelish has offered to help Sansa for nothing in return, which probably means that he's after something. Sansa naively says that he's an old friend of her mother's, believing that should be reason enough. Shae suggests that Baelish is actually sexually attracted to Sansa. This disturbs Sansa, but she thinks it is simply impossible, as Baelish is so much older than her. Shae continues to warn Sansa that Baelish is manipulative, and men usually only want one thing from pretty young ladies, and love often isn't what they're after. Sir Loras Tyrell arrives at the door and escorts Sansa to the gardens to meet with Margaery and their grandmother, Lady Olenna Tyrell. Sansa reminds Loras that they met once before at the Tourney of the Hand, and he takes his leave after introducing her. Lady Olenna is a cunning and intelligent woman who speaks her mind, and bluntly says that her son Mace was a fool for supporting Renly Baratheon's claim to the throne. Though Margaery speaks well of Renly, Lady Olenna insists that Sansa tell her the truth about what Joffrey is like, as he is to marry Margaery. Sansa is initially reluctant, but when Olenna mentions her father, Sansa breaks down and, her eyes blazing, angrily recounts how Joffrey had said he would show her father mercy, only to behead him in front of her, and how he then took her up to the wall and forced her to look at her father's head on a spike, and claim him providing her father with a swift death was mercy. Realizing what she has just been saying, Sansa nervously attempts to backtrack. Olenna continues to prod Sansa as she fidgets around, and it becomes obvious that she is visibly afraid about being overheard. After enough times of Olenna insisting that she can trust her not to repeat what she says, Sansa blurts out that Joffrey is a monster. Olenna is disappointed, but unsurprised, given the rumors that have been circulating about Joffrey's public outbursts. Sansa is worried that this means the Tyrells will cancel their proposed marriage alliance, meaning Sansa will be stuck with Joffrey again, but Olenna assures her that her son Mace is too intent on Margaery entering into a royal marriage to cancel it for anything. Shae sneaks into Tyrion Lannister's new chambers. He warns her that his father threatened to kill her if he found her with him again, and that his father follows through on such threats. Undeterred, Shae starts undressing Tyrion and asks him for a favor, to protect Sansa from Baelish. Tyrion says that he no longer has enough power or influence to attempt to do that, though Shae accuses him of being attracted to Sansa, which he cheerfully denies. It also comes out that Tyrion had sex with Roose back in the north, though Tyrion points out it was before he met Shae. They playfully bicker about it as they start having sex. Margaery is summoned to Joffrey's chambers to see if she needs anything before he leaves on a hunting trip. While Joffrey has previously been easy for Margaery to manipulate, Cersei was apparently able to plant one seed of doubt in his mind: the fact that Margaery was married to his uncle Renly, and thus already had sex with another man, whom Cersei described as a traitor and known degenerate. When questioned, Margaery says that she was ordered to marry a traitor as her family duty, but Joffrey implies that this still means he must have had sex with her. Joffrey angrily questions Margaery about the relationship, and she delicately placates him by feigning demure shyness and painting herself as a dutiful but frustrated bride. She uses the rumors about Renly's homosexuality to redirect Joffrey's anger, stating that Renly always found excuses to avoid sex, but in one instance drunkenly suggested, something that sounded very painful and could not possibly result in children, which draws her new fiancé's sympathy. Joffrey tells Margaery he had considered making Renly's perversion punishable by death. Margaery eventually manages to divert attention to the new custom crossbow Joffrey's had made for his excursion. It quickly becomes apparent that Joffrey is excited by violence and sadism, so she flirts with him by complimenting the crossbow and musing about killing something herself. Easily played, Joffrey offers to take her with him to share in the excitement of killing something. Beyond the Wall. Jon Snow marches slowly south with the Free Folk army of King Beyond the Wall, Mance Rayder. Mance explains that his army is a diverse force, formed of about 90 different groups or clans of wildlings, who speak 7 different languages, and have numerous internal rivalries. However, he managed to unite them all by telling them the truth, that they will all die if they remain north of the wall. Mance brings Jon to one of his scouts, Orel. He is sitting silently with his eyes rolled back as an eagle circles above him. Mance says that he is a warg, and Wygritte is surprised that Jon doesn't know what that is. Mance explains that a warg is a person who is capable of entering the mind of an animal, seeing what it sees, and even controlling its actions. Orel controls his menagerie to scout miles ahead. Mance asks him what he has seen, and Orel says he saw the fist of the first men, and many dead crows. Lord Commander Jeor Mormont of the Night's Watch leads the few survivors of the slaughter at the fight at the Fist South in hope of reaching the wall. Samwell Tarly is exhausted and collapses. Rast is annoyed that Sam hid during the battle, and thinks they should leave him because he's slowing them down. Sam is upset that Gran and Ed abandoned him at the start of the attack, although they refuse to leave him now. Mormont tells Sam that he has to keep moving and sternly forbids Sam to die. Mormont orders Rast to keep Sam alive until they reach the wall on pain of death. In the north, Bran Stark dreams that he is walking and hunting in the woods. He sees the mysterious three-eyed raven again. As he aims his bow, he relives his memories of when he was practicing archery with Jon and Robb, and hears the voice of his father Eddard. Bran shoots at the raven but misses. A young stranger appears. The boy tells Bran that he cannot shoot the raven, because he is the raven. Bran awakens suddenly, worrying Hodor for a moment, but he says that he is fine. Osha says they have enough problems without dark dreams. Bran, Rickon, Osha, Hodor, and the direwolves, Summer and Shaggy Dog, continue to head north from Winterfell to the wall. Later, the same boy from the dream approaches their camp in the woods unarmed. Summer snarls at him initially, but then sniffs his hand and turns away. Osha comes up behind the boy with a sharpened wooden spear, only for the boy's sister to surprise Osha and put a knife to her throat. The boy introduces himself as Jojen Reed, and his sister as Mira Reed. House Reed are loyal bannermen of House Stark, and they have been searching for Bran and Rickon so that they can protect them. When they are on the move again, Jojen and Bran discuss his wolf dreams. Jojen explains that Bran himself is a warg. Jojen says that it starts out as vivid dreams seeing the world through his wolf's eyes, but with practice he will be able to consciously enter the mind of his wolf and control its actions. Bran asks if prophetic dreams are part of being a warg, but Jojen explains that's a different, related ability. The sight allows those who possess it to see events that haven't happened yet, or events that happened long before they were born, or events happening now but thousands of miles away. Jojen confirms that Bran's dream of his father Eddard the day he died was an example of the sight, and that Jojen himself had a similar dream the same day. He says that when he told his father, Lord Howland Reed, he openly wept, for he correctly realized that his son's dream signified that Eddard was dead. Bran says that Howland was a great friend of his father Eddard's, who fought alongside him during Robert's rebellion. Jojen says that Howland doesn't like to talk about the war much. Jojen confirms that Bran wasn't simply experiencing a vision of Jojen in his earlier dream, but that he reached out with his mind to contact Bran in his dream, and that he remembers seeing the three-eyed raven too. At the Dreadfort, at an indeterminate location, Theon Greyjoy has been chained up in a dungeon after being knocked out before the sack of Winterfell. Men come in, some wearing Ironborn clothing, and interrogate him. When he asks what they want, one of his captors says he wants to do this, and starts prying his fingernails off with a knife. Later they use a foot press to torture him, while also slowly turning a screw into his foot until it is bleeding freely, repeatedly asking him why he captured Winterfell, but apparently not caring about the answers he gives. Theon at first tells them the simple truth that he wanted to take and hold Winterfell while the North was vulnerable to impress his father, then starts frantically lying, saying he hates the Starks and is their enemy, desperately trying to figure out what his captors want him to tell them. When the guards leave, they put a bag over his head. A servant boy comes over to Theon and unwinds the foot press, and tells him that he has been sent by his sister Yara to rescue him. However, he must wait until nightfall when the castle is asleep. So he puts the bag back on, and the desperate Theon is left alone crying for help.